President Trump makes a triumphant return to Butler, Pennsylvania. Good morning, Kuhner country. Ho, 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 ho. My friends, it was one of the most incredible rallies I have ever witnessed. I saw it on television, obviously. Much of the country did. A few Kuhner country members were there in Butler, and they were texting the Kuhner man, emailing the Kuhner man. Electric. There's just no other word to describe it. It was an absolutely electric atmosphere. 20,000 rally goers in the open fields of Butler, Pennsylvania, coming back to have Trump finish the speech that he started 12 weeks ago to the day before an assassin's bullet nearly killed him. As you know, 3 months ago, on Saturday, it was really to the day when Trump did his rally in Butler, an assassin's bullet almost killed Donald Trump. Thomas Crooks, within a couple hundred yards on the roof of a nearby building, fired at President Trump, clipped his right ear, blood all over Trump's face. Had Trump not moved a millimeter to the right at that precise millisecond, he would be dead. And the crowd was boisterous. They were optimistic. They were brave, patriotic, courageous. They were all back, showing not only unity, but the resilience that is Donald Trump, the resilience that is the MAGA movement. Listen to Trump. I mean, he electrified the crowd when he said, roll cut 16, Mike.
Lee, thank you very much, really, and thank you, a very big thank you to Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania. And as I was saying, oh, I love that. I love that chart. I love that graph.
You know, that's that famous immigration chart where if he does use it, he normally uses it at the end of a rally, unlike in Butler 3 months ago, which was near the very beginning of the rally, and that's when he slightly turned his head as the bullet was whizzing past his head. And it was, as he puts it, it was that chart that saved his life. And I think this line, as I was saying, is going to go down in American history. It's an infamous line. It's going to be one of the most famous lines ever uttered from a president, and now I believe the next president of the United States. And he clearly wanted it to be known that this was not blind luck. This was not just happenstance that saved his life on that day. As he told the assembled roaring crowd, there's one in particular thing that he believes in, that this was the hand of God, and that he believes the good Lord came down and saved him from death that fateful day. Listen now to Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Roll cut 17, Mike.
For 16 harrowing seconds during the gunfire, time stopped as this vicious monster unleashed pure evil from his sniper's perch, not so far away. But by the hand of providence and the grace of God, that villain did not succeed in his goal, did not come close. He did not stop our movement. He did not break out our spirit. He did not shake our unyielding resolve to save America from evils of poverty, hatred, and destruction. Yet we are here this evening in record numbers. This is a big crowd. This is a big one.
Oh, it was a monster crowd.
This is a big one.
It's a monster crowd. And look, there's a couple of points that need to be said. And then, frankly, I'd like to open up the phone lines right after the break and get your reaction. This was history in the making. Not only did Trump come back, and that to me shows you, again, his tenacity, his courage, his bravery, his resilience, unafraid. Everybody knew the massive risk that he was taking. They would love to finish what they started 3 months ago. Now, to be fair, the Secret Service this time were out in force. There was a lot of Secret Service, and there was a lot of law enforcement and security everywhere. But still, can you imagine what must be running through his head? The last time I was here, I got shot in the face. And had it not been by a direct intervention by Providence himself, I would be dead. To say the poor guy's probably got post-traumatic stress disorder is to understate it. Yet there he was. And as he put it, I am willing to take a bullet for you to save our country, to save our republic, to save our democracy. The least you can do is go out, register, and vote for me. And tell everybody that you know, register and vote for me. Now, what is to me very clear is that Trump's triumphant reappearance in Butler shows a couple of things. Number one, the crowd size was massive. It was massive. The first crowd was massive. This second crowd, this second time, I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen at any outdoor rally, period. What that shows is that Pennsylvania now is clearly on fire for Trump. He has gotten tremendous sympathy. The people now see what a warrior he is, and he is a warrior. And now, like a prairie wildfire, they can't stop this movement. And people brave their own lives in coming. Remember, Corey Comparator, God bless him, died on that fateful day. And Trump honored his sacrifice, his memory, and that of his family who also appeared. There were others who were badly injured on that fateful day. So people in the crowd knew they were taking an immense personal risk as well, because everybody assumed an assassin would try a second chance to finish what the Dems initially started. Now, to me, what that shows is that Pennsylvania now is burning hot for Trump. It's getting stronger for Trump. His momentum is now almost unstoppable. What it also showed is that the speech by Eric Trump, there were many excellent speeches. You had Elon Musk, who also electrified the crowd. MAGA loves Elon. You could clearly see that in Butler, Pennsylvania, when Elon spoke. And you can see Elon feeding off of the love of the crowd. And basically almost, I love you. Elon now has become a full-fledged Trump supporter. Elon is now becoming part of MAGA. And one of his best lines was when he said, I am dark MAGA. As in the Dark Knight, Batman. To, counteract, remember Joe Biden after his very divisive, angry speech in Philadelphia? What was this, in the midway point of his presidency? When he literally vilified every Trump supporter as an enemy of the people and an enemy of the state. And then his idiots around him, his aides, started to paint him as a dark Brandon, trying to turn him into like the Dark Knight fighting the super villains. Well, Elon turned it around on Biden, saying, if he's Dark Brandon, I'm Dark MAGA. And the crowd ate it up. They loved it. Eric Trump, though. J.D. Vance, by the way, also gave a great speech. I mean, everybody killed it. But it was Eric Trump that really unleashed a barrage. And as he said in his speech, his father is alive today by the grace of God. But he said, make no mistake about it. The people that are responsible for what happened in Butler and then the second assassination attempt in Florida at his golf course are the media present here covering this and the Democratic Party. It is their hatred of Trump. It is their demonization and dehumanization of Trump. It is them constantly saying he is a threat to democracy. He is the second coming of Adolf Hitler. He is a man who will suspend all elections should he win in November. They laid the climate of hatred, the climate of fear, the climate of mass hysteria that led to that assassination attempt. And my friends, I got to tell you, the media has gone apoplectic. I thought George Stephanopoulos yesterday on ABC This Week, I thought he was going to get a heart attack. They don't want now to be called out. And they're trying to claim now that Eric Trump and Donald Trump are the ones who are fomenting hatred against the media. No, 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 no. The media have no one to blame but themselves. They are responsible for that assassination attempt, and they know it. 620 on the Grey WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Donald Trump makes his electrifying, triumphant return to Butler, Pennsylvania. Many now say there was a huge, huge crowd, and that now shows the strength that Trump has, that Pennsylvania will go for Trump in November. Agree, disagree, and let me ask all of you. Eric Trump in his speech, ironically, is getting the most attention. More than Trump himself, more than Elon, more than J.D. Vance. I could run down the whole list. Because Eric Trump, to me, and it was actually a brilliant speech, said the media and the Democratic Party is to blame for the assassination attempts on his father, that they have fostered a climate of sheer hatred and dehumanization, hysteria, and that's what now has put his father's life in mortal danger. The media has had an absolute meltdown all weekend. I cannot understate it. I thought Stephanopoulos was going to jump off his chair yesterday when he interviewed Speaker Mike Johnson. How dare the Trumps blame us for those assassination attempts? How dare they? Later on the panel, Reince Priebus and Donna Brazil got into an extremely heated argument over this very issue. To me, I think it's self-evident. What are you all complaining about? You call the guy Hitler. You call the guy an existential threat to democracy. You say this is going to be the end of America as we know it if he wins, and you're shocked somebody goes out and tries to shoot his head off? No, you're guilty, and you just can't stand the fact now that fingers are being pointed at you because you don't want to be held accountable. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Is Eric Trump right? Does the media now have blood on their hands? Is the media and the Democrats and their vitriolic, virulent, hate-filled rhetoric against Trump, are they responsible for what happened in Butler 3 months ago? 617-266-6868. In other words, is Eric Trump right or is he wrong? Betty in Quincy. Thanks for holding and welcome, Betty.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going?
Very good. I'm telling you, after this weekend, I'm feeling better than ever about November.
Oh, my gosh. Well, can I just say, God bless Donald J. Trump and God bless America. I am driving right now on the road back from Butler. I had to be there. I left on Friday, like 5:30 in the morning, straight shot down there. It was a part of history. I'm telling you, this guy is the chosen one. I mean, The American spirit was so palpable. It was something, it was off the charts. And, you know, Eric Trump is 100%, 1,000% right, you know. And I want to give a shout out to his wife, Lara Trump, actually. She's been doing such a great job. And even in Eric's speech, he said, I can't wait till this is over. You know, you go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, she's talking about voter fraud, this and that, how we're going to make everything right. He goes, I can't wait till I wake up in the morning and she's not talking about the voter fraud. She said, we are going to do our best to get out there, and if you're voting and you're not, you know, if you're voting illegally, we will find you and we will prosecute you to the full extent. I mean, it was electrifying. It when Elon got up there, oh my God, the crowd, it was elbow room, standing room only. So
Betty, I'm just curious. The media saying 20,000 people showed up in Butler, which is a massive size. Is that the sense you got, that there were at least 20,000 that showed up?
Oh my God, at least. I mean, I got there at 10:30. People have been there since, you know, Friday. And it's like you could put like cattle through these lines. I'm just like, oh my God, I never saw anything. I've been to rallies and stuff. This was by far off the charts. And it was so great because you could see Trump flying over. And I forget who was talking, but he said, all right, everybody, look in the sky. Wave to President Trump, and they're all flying over. There was just a crowd. Everybody was standing up, clapping, screaming. It was like they want this guy to succeed more than anything. And it was brilliant. And they had a really nice memorial for Corey. And actually, that's kind of one of the reasons it got me to drive down. I made a huge cookie for his family to share with them. I said, I need to drive this down. I mean, the ultimate sacrifice right there. And, you know, Trump was saying he was talking to his wife, Helen, and she said that day, Corey was saying, I got the best seats. Oh, my gosh, I'm going to be on the stage with Trump. I know it. And this and that. And Trump just said, well, today, Corey is immortalized on this stage. The ultimate courage, the ultimate sacrifice.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Betty, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And that's just one. I got so much similar reaction from people who attended. They said, Jeff, it was the greatest rally I've ever attended. Donald Trump makes a huge comeback, my friends, on fire in Butler, Pennsylvania, on his return after his assassination attempt. Huge crowd. And then from Butler, he went right away to Wisconsin. Juneau, Wisconsin, lit him on fire there. He's then going to go to Michigan. He is now doing 3-4 campaign stops, hitting every single battleground state over and over and over again. He now says it's time to bring this election home. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, what do you make now of Trump's triumphant return to Butler? The incredible warm embrace from the crowd, 20,000 and then some. And Eric Trump, was he right to call out the media and the Democrats, saying, you bear some responsibility for what happened? You're the ones who have demonized my father to such a degree that now he's had not one, but 2 assassination attempts on his life. 617-266-6868. Dave in the great state of Pennsylvania. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Let me tell you something, brother. It's like the Hulk said. Trumpomania is running wild. And what are you Democrats going to do when Trumpomania comes down on you, brother? Jeff, I sent you pictures, all right?
Dave, I got him. Thank you. Dave, they were amazing. Dave, you were there in Butler. You made a promise to go there. I remember you even sent me a copy of the receipt of the ticket a couple days ago saying, you want to know how serious I am? Here's the ticket, Jeff. Dave, what was the crowd size like? What was the attitude of the crowd? What was the atmosphere when you were there?
Something, brother, and this is not from the Macho Man, Randy Savage, okay, and the rest of Trump-a-mania, Jeff. It was like a big family reunion, Jeff, okay? And listen, Jeff, from my standpoint, I ran into a couple mainstream media people. ABC was there, and I told them right to their face, ABC stands for all bullcrap. And the lady was like, you can't say that. And I looked at her, and I showed her my Marine tattoo with HCDC lettering. And I said, sweetheart, let me tell you something. I'll tell you and say whatever I want. What you going to do when Trump-a-mania comes down on you? I told her right to her face. They're nothing but a bunch of communist liberals. Right to their face, Jeff.
Good for you. Good for you, Dave. Dave, so you said it was like a family reunion. Dave, I'm not to get hung up on this point, but how big do you think was the crowd? Because everybody was commenting. I got emails saying, Jeff, I'm down here. You won't believe the size of this thing. This thing is, it's a mammoth rally. This is huge. I've never been to a rally with this many people. Did you get that same sense, Dave?
Yes, Dave. Jeff, I'm sorry. When I was in the Marine Corps and I was overseas, Jeff, we did a layover in Germany on the way home from the Gulf War. And I saw the Scorpions, rock you like a hurricane, Jeff, in 91. In Grafenberg, Germany, their hometown, okay? This was bigger than that, Jeff, and that was a USO show. You know the USO. But, yes. Jeff, I'm going to tell you this right now. For the Democrats to win or even think of winning, Jeff, they're going to have to cheat by leaps and bounds. And I'm going to tell you, Jeff, I'm not going to talk about a red wave because we know what happened the last time it happened. Jeff, you got to tell the people, get off their asses and get out there and vote. Whether they like Trump or the mean tweets, they need to go up here, Jeff. And listen, they need to vote Republican up and down the ballot. Okay, Jeff? Because number one, the first thing when Trump gets in there, and pray to God he does, he stubs his toe politically. You think the media is apoplectic now, my friend? They're going to go more crazy than Kramer from Seinfeld, Jeff, pulling his hair out. Okay, Jeff, because they're going to impeach him if he looks at the teleprompter, which he don't need, or the camera the wrong way, Jeff, they're going to impeach him just for that. That's how much they hate him, Jeff. And that's the God's honest truth to God's ears, my friend.
Dave, as always, thank you for your service. Thank you for the call. Thank you for all the information you sent me over the weekend. Dave, God bless you, my friend. Huge Trump supporter. He's out in the Pittsburgh area. Thank you again, Dave. 617-266-6868 is the number. He's completely right. Trump needs a Republican House and a Republican Senate. Just, to get his agenda through. But even forget that. The Democrats can't control the House or the Senate because he's right. They're going to impeach Trump for nothing. Literally, he goes to the bathroom, they impeach. He looks at the camera the wrong way, they impeach. They will impeach on nothing. So go out and vote Republican right down the line, baby. 617-266-6868. Linda in Cambridge. Thanks for holding, Linda, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call, Jeff. I'm going to say, yes, of course the media is responsible. Everybody knows that. They've been responsible since he got into office in 2016, what they did to this man, Jeff. But I am going to tell you, it was absolutely the right hand of God. And I'm going to tell you something else that I said before on this show, that God did not let Trump win because he wanted to show everyone, this is what you want, this is what you're going to get for the next 4 years, and then see what you want after 4 years. Now, I'm going to say, just like Dave who called, I'm sick and tired of hearing people go, oh, the mean tweets, oh, he just has to, he has to be a little bit more this or that. I'm sorry. Here is a man that God prepared, Jeff. He's been preparing Donald Trump for years to win that election in 2016 over who? Over Hillary, Jeff. They were so cocky, Jeff, in 2016. They thought they were going to win. Remember the smirks? Remember the, oh, we got it? And guess what, Jeff? They lost. Why? Because God was preparing Donald Trump for the evil that was permeating this country and around the world, Jeff. Okay? And I am going to tell you, he will also make sure Donald Trump gets into office now. Guarantee it. There's no way they are going to win this election, Jeff, because there's only one person who can take care of the evil in this world. And we know who that person is. It is God, with all of his mercy and his grace, Jeff.
You know, Linda, when you phrase it the way you phrase it, look, there is something happening. You can sense it. You can feel it. And I think that's why people are reacting so strongly to that big, huge Butler rally over the weekend. It wasn't just the massive crowd size. It was the level of enthusiasm, the love, the electricity. I think as you know, as Dave put it, it was like a family reunion. There's something now. We feel a bond with one another and a bond with Trump and a bond with our country that we haven't felt in many, many, many years. And Trump is now surging at the exact right moment. You know what they say about life? Everything is about timing. Everything. Kamala's campaign, the wheels are coming off. Things are now so bad for Kamala. She's not, she's not there in Asheville. She's not in the Hurricane Helene ravaged areas of Georgia or North Carolina. She's now doing sex podcasts. I swear to you. Okay, I'm going to have that later in the show. She goes and does an interview with a woman who does essentially a sex podcast. She interviews what they call sex workers, porn stars and prostitutes. That's what she's doing. And now they're trying to get her onto Howard Stern. She's going to do The View. She's going to do Stephen Colbert. So they think the key to her saving her poll numbers is running to Hollywood. Like Hollywood now and hacks like Howard Stern are going to bail her out. So she's got no ground game. She's got no message. She's a horrible candidate. She's callous. She's indifferent. She's incompetent. And everybody can see it more and more and more and more. And I'm telling you, sex podcasts, The View, and Howard Stern is not going to save her campaign. I mean, I don't know who the hell's running that campaign, but this has got to be the worst campaign I've ever seen in my entire life. Trump, on the other hand, is doing a blitzkrieg. He is barnstorming battleground after battleground after battleground state. And he's going to be doing 3, 4, he says, if need be, 5 rallies a day. Mark my words, he is going to outwork her to the finish line. So he is surging at the exact right moment. She's plummeting at the exact wrong moment. And that's why, in my gut, I've been saying this for a while, fingers crossed, because they can always steal it. You never underestimate the Democrats and their evil and their depravity and their thirst and hunger for power. But if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on Trump. Linda, thank you for that call. In my gut, I'm telling you, he's going to win this election. Agree, disagree? Did you see the speech in Butler? And is Eric Trump right? Your call's next. 6:49 on the Greg WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, I'm going to continue to take your calls. By the way, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Butler, Trump's triumphant return, and the massive media fallout. They can sense now that Pennsylvania is starting to go for Trump. it's now slipping away from their grasp. And that's why they're lashing out. That's why they're getting even more vicious, if it's possible, with Trump and his family. And they're going to continue now to attack him relentlessly all the way up until November 5th. But there is another very big story that is brewing. You know what's going on at the after effects, the impact of Hurricane Helene, and what that has done to Georgia in particular, North Carolina, Western North Carolina, East Tennessee. Other states were affected as well, but those three were really took the brunt of the damage. Hurricane Milton now is slowly barreling towards Florida. And I want to read this from Marianne. Marianne is a huge fan of the show. She obviously she lives in Florida, like many in Massachusetts. She relocated to Florida, and she's now in the path of this hurricane. And here is what she wrote, and she said, please share it with everybody in Kuhner country. Good morning, Jeff. I'm doing my best to listen to your show today, but I'm also having to keep up with what's going on here in Florida with the storm, Hurricane Milton. I am in the direct path of a hit. I've prepped about as much as I can, because there's only so much you can do. I'm asking you to ask all of your listeners for prayers for those of us that are in the path of the storm, because it's set to be one of the worst ones we've seen in a while. If you don't mind, please mention sending prayers for us. I will tune in as I can, but power will be off, and we don't know for how long when this storm hits. I'm not near the water, thank goodness. As much as I would have always loved to live near the water, it's times like this that I'm glad I don't. As always, thanks for all that you can do. Marianne, listen, you're in my thoughts and prayers. Your family's in my thoughts and prayers. Please be safe. And everybody down there in Florida now, getting ready to be hit by Hurricane Milton, all of you are in my thoughts and prayers. And I never want to be presumptuous and speak for this incredible audience, but I know on this, I know I can speak for the audience. All of our thoughts and prayers are with all of you right now. So, and look, this is what is now, I'm telling you, this is what's driving Kamala's numbers into the ground. And this is why Trump is surging. The pitiful, pathetic, ineffective, I'm being very, really, I'm being mild in my criticisms, okay? Because I think it's more than that. But at a minimum, this pathetic, pitiful, ineffective, inept response to Hurricane Helene, and how utterly indifferent and callous both Biden and Kamala have been, has done her now immense political damage, irreparable political damage. And the contrast between her and Trump could not be clearer. And I believe that's the reason now why you're starting to see all the undecideds break towards Trump, those on the fence towards Trump, who whatever independents weren't quite made up their mind yet, breaking towards Trump. And that's why you're starting to see Trump now. He's starting to get some separation in the polls from Kamala. When historians look back, there are many reasons why she collapsed, but this will be the biggest reason. Hurricane Helene did to her what Hurricane Katrina did to George W. Bush. 617-266-6868. And the worst thing now, the absolute worst, is that as Florida is bracing for another powerful hurricane to ravage parts of that great state, FEMA now has admitted there's no more money. They burned through the money. Over $1.4 billion, $1.4 billion have been allocated. In fact, to me, it's been stolen, really. They raided the FEMA fund, $1.4 billion, to help resettle and house illegal aliens and so-called migrants around the entire country. So now, as Milton is barreling down, there's going to be no FEMA money for anybody. This is how criminal and incompetent this administration has become. And by the way, you need to hear this. Over the weekend, Kamala Harris went on X and bragged that she and Biden have now just released and sent $157 million in aid to the people of Lebanon. You can't make this up. To help the people of Lebanon rebuild in the wake of Israeli airstrikes and the limited ground invasion. So they say, no, this is money to help them with recovery and rescue operations, to help them with rebuilding, to help them get food and water and medical and emergency supplies. And of course, everybody's asking the obvious question. You don't have money for your own people in North Carolina and Georgia? There's your $750 check, and blank you. But they've got $157 million to go to Lebanon? This is America last. And that's what you're seeing between Trump and Harris. A compare and contrast between America first and America last. This is what America last means. FEMA money doesn't go to Americans. It goes to illegals. Aid money doesn't go to Americans. It goes to the Lebanese. It goes to the Ukrainians. It goes to everybody but us. And I've got to say this. Okay? I'm sorry. I've got to say this, my friends. People now, the death toll is over 260 from Hurricane Helene. They're finding bodies now everywhere. Everywhere. In homes, on trees, buried in mudslides. I mean, when I say everywhere, they're everywhere. You have towns now completely wiped off the map. Roads washed out. There are now landslides, mudslides everywhere. People are desperate. Still now, 10 days later, communities are still isolated, desperate for food, desperate for water, desperate for any kind of help. They say FEMA has been nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And so while Americans are literally dying, desperately trying to hang on, and only fellow civilians are helping them out. You know what Kamala Harris is doing? You couldn't make this, I'm telling you couldn't make this up. Over the weekend, she went on something called Call Her Daddy podcast. The host, if you can call that person a host, basically it's a sex podcast. And this woman who runs it she explicitly talks about sex with porn actresses, with prostitutes, escort girls, call girls. It's a dirty talk sex podcast. That's what it is. And she asked Kamala, well, why did you decide to come on my sex podcast? Why don't you do interviews with the media? Why would you bother coming here? Listen to the response. This is what Kamala's doing as people are dying. Roll cut 8, Mike.
I'm curious, you don't do too many long form interviews. What made you want to do Call Her Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real, and to talk about the things that people really care about. I mean, what I love about what you do is that your voice and your show is really about your listeners. And I think especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard, and that they're part of a community, that they're not out there alone. And so I'm really glad to be with you.
You know, they're part of a community, and they're not out there alone. And, you know, like, this is real, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, hey, you want to talk to me about Willie? You want me to talk to you about Willie and his little Willie? You know, I want to talk about how I made it, how I slept my way to the top with Willie Brown? Huh? You want to share some sex stories? Because I can tell you some really good sex stories. This is a presidential candidate for the United States of America? Are you kidding me? Like, seriously, are you kidding me? Look, if no one else has the guts to say it, I'm telling you right now. This woman is not going to protect your family. She's not going to protect you. She's not going to... You think she's going to be taken seriously by world leaders? Your people are dying and desperate, and you're doing a sex podcast? Holy mackerel. Holy mackerel. Well, you know, I guess, you know, in a way, I mean, you know, if you slept your way to the top, maybe there isn't much of a difference between the, you know, the hookers and the porn stars and the sex workers that this woman interviews on her podcast. So I don't know. Maybe it is fitting. Maybe I stand corrected. This is how bad Kamala is. Okay? This is how bad she is. She was in Michigan. They finally hauled her out of the sex podcasts and the fundraisers. And they said, you know, you got to do some actual campaigning if you want to win this thing. So she goes to Michigan. You got to hear this. Her teleprompter, a la Joey, fails. And you remember under Biden, when the teleprompter failed, he was finished. Like, you know, because he's senile. Bo? Where's Bo? I just saw Bo. I think Bo. There's Bo. There's Bo. I can see him. Bo? Okay. This is now Kamala. Trump's teleprompter not only fails all the time, he often goes off script. Forget what the teleprompter's saying. Okay, he's 78 years old. And he's contemporaneously, coherently, energetically. This guy can talk an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. No problemo. No problem. The teleprompter goes dark for 48 seconds. She's got nothing between her ears. Nothing. Listen to how she just tries to fill the airtime. And she can't do it. She starts to panic. Roll cut 7. Mike.
Remember his number? 32. Today we got 32 days until the election. So 32 days. 32 days. Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days. And we know we will do it. And this is going to be a very tight race until the very end. This is going to be a very tight race until the very end. We are the underdog, and we know we have some hard work ahead.
Blah, 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 blah. She was referring to Magic Johnson, okay, the famous basketball player, and about his, you know, his jersey, 32. So that's all she could say is 32. Okay, remember 32. And we got 32 days left to the election. And, what do I say here? It's going to be very close. It'll be very close. Yeah, really close. Okay, and we got some business. We got some business. 32. 32. Pathetic. Pathetic. Now, I'm telling you, this is not a winning candidate. This is a freak show. Between her and Tim Walz, honestly, I don't know who's more bizarre, who's more weird, or who's crazier. Seriously, who is a bigger left-wing lunatic? I don't know. 617-266-6868. Is it CJT, Mike? CJT in Milton. Thanks for holding, CJT, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. CJT here. Loyal listener to the Kuhner Man, and occasional caller at the Kuhner Man.
Thank
is great.
you. Thank
and
you,
his
CJT.
wife, great show on Grace's show on the Cape is great too. I listen to that also. The reason I'm calling is I want to be, obviously I've been with Trump since 2015. I went to his first New England rally at the Atkinson Country Club, New Hampshire. I knew that day he was going to win. But, I want to be realistic now instead of optimistic. The rally in Butler was tremendous, exhilarating. Elon Musk was amazing. Maybe he should have had RFK Jr. in there. It was unbelievable. Trump himself, he's a workhorse. He seems to do everything that's necessary, 3 or 4 rallies a day. My concern is I'm not sure if his campaign staff knows what they're doing, to be honest with you. One reason I'm saying this is, I watch the football games, okay? I get something called NFL Sunday Ticket. Shows games from all over the country. It also shows the local ads in those games. Constantly seeing Harris ads. Never Trump. Nothing. I don't think I've ever seen a Trump ad on TV. Nothing. I even hear Harris ads on WRKO. I just don't know what his campaign is doing. Trump himself couldn't possibly do more. Those rallies, they're amazing. Maybe the Kuhner Man can educate me as to what I'm missing. But, there's only 30 days to go. What are they doing? I knew he was going to win in 2016. I knew in 2015 he was going to win. I went to that rally in October 2015. It was a day after a Patriots game that I went to. I got up at 4 a.m, drove up there. There were thousands of people. Today's the day after a Patriots game. Is there any local rallies for Trump? No. Anyway, I don't want to keep talking and talking.
No, CJT, I understand what you're saying. Look, the reason why Kamala is spending so much money on, the NFL network or during these NFL games is because, and they've admitted this is their, polling in general shows this, but her internal polls show it even more dramatically. She is bleeding support, hemorrhaging support among men. Not just white men, Latino men, black men, Asian men, it doesn't matter, across the board. It's been getting worse and worse and worse over the last 4 to 6 weeks. At this alarming rate, she can't win, and she knows she can't win. She's lost that many men. So they think if they can just put her ads, because, a lot of men watch football, NFL football. They think, well, let me just blanket the airwaves, and somehow that'll make her, make men like her. It won't work. I'm telling you, it won't work. Now, you're saying, well, where are Trump's ads? Trump is not advertising in Massachusetts because he believes it's a lost cause. But let me tell you where he is bombarding the airwaves. Pennsylvania. His ads are everywhere. People in Pennsylvania, you tell me if that's true or not. Because I've been reading that whether it's Philadelphia. By the way, he's now making inroads in Philadelphia, which is the Democrat stronghold. The suburbs now are going for Trump. So if this trend continues, he's going to win Pennsylvania, maybe now in a landslide. So he's bombarding Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona. What they're doing is they're micro-targeting. So they're not going to be spending ads in many other places around the country. They're going to put everything they have into winning those core 6, 7 battleground states. And honestly, CJT, they're pouring so much that you have people in Georgia are saying we can't take this anymore. You know, North Carolina, I know they're dealing with the storm, but the areas that are not impacted by the storm, Pennsylvania, they go, we're just electioned out. Like, it's just, you turn on the TV, it's a Kamala ad, a Trump ad. You know, Trump ad, Kamala, it's just back. It's just ad after ad after ad after ad after ad. So believe me, CJT, the campaign is spending a ton of money. They're advertising like crazy. They're just not advertising here. And they feel, why should we advertise on the NFL? Those male viewers are ours. If anything, it shows you how weak and desperate Kamala is. I hope that answers your question, CJ. 720 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Jeff Kuhner now, Boston's Bulldozer. Got to tell you, my friends, getting a lot of texts from people now, a lot of emails. Very disconcerting. They're very worried about what's happening now in Florida. Hurricane Milton is gathering steam. It is going to be hitting that state very, very soon. And people are saying FEMA doesn't have our back. Biden, Kamala clearly don't have our back. They have no resources left, none. They spent everything for the illegals or foreign aid to Lebanon or to Ukraine. They're not even helping the state with being prepared, doing pre-hurricane preparedness. This is all Ron DeSantis now. The state of Florida stands alone. It's just incredible what is happening now to our country. It really, really is. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning.
Hi, Russ.
With the exception of the military, all other departments have deteriorated under the Biden and Harris administration. The evidence is clear. If you look at the evidence, it is foolish to vote for Harris, without question. Long live President Trump. This was the hand of God. He saved President Trump to do his will. To the will of God, President Trump will deliver us from this evil that we're suffering from right now. Harris voters, you are useful idiots. They will benefit the evil control freaks. In my lifetime, as far as presidents were concerned, as far as their job as commander-in-chief, the 4 worst presidents, and I'll give them to you in order: Johnson, Carter, Biden, and Obama. Johnson handling of the Vietnam War was a disaster. Carter surrendering to the Ayatollah. Biden pushing us closer and closer to World War III. And Obama giving Iran the opportunity to develop a nuclear weapon to destroy the state of Israel, okay? And listen to the 70% of the Jews in this country that voted for Joe Biden, okay? Thank God for Benjamin Netanyahu and the will of the Israeli people that they're going to withstand and they're going to survive this. We need President Trump as a strong leader, a master negotiator, and someone that can bring us back to peace instead of war.
Well, you know, Russ, you touched on it. I think there's no question. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the October 7 massacre, in which Hamas, obviously backed by Iran, funded and trained by the mullahs in Iran, launched one of the most despicable, vilest attacks in modern history, where over 1,000 Israeli Jews were slaughtered. Literally, babies burned alive, Jewish women gang raped, and the people of Gaza overwhelmingly were celebrating as it was happening. I mean, this is the kind of people that Israel is surrounded by. And this forced Israel to take on Hamas, and now it's expanded to Hezbollah, to the Houthis, and Iran itself. And what you're going to be seeing today, Russ, mark my words, it already started this weekend, is you're going to see the anti-Semites around the world, and there are many of them, take to the streets in open celebration of Hamas, of Hezbollah, and of Iran. And they're going to be calling for the extermination of the Jews. London had some huge rallies where they're openly calling now for Israel to be wiped off the map. Sydney, Australia, ditto. Today it's going to be New York City. Mark my words. The Hamas wing of the Democratic Party, these brainwashed, indoctrinated activists and college students are going to block traffic, and they are going to shout, forgive me, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free, i.e., the complete ethnic religious cleansing of the Jews. So the anti-Semitism that has now been unleashed is real. And the number one sponsor and driver of this anti-Semitism around the world is Iran. And look, you're right. Obama was a disaster. Biden was even worse. But it's like dumb, dumber, and dumbest. The worst of them all is Kamala. And for the life of me, if you're anybody, I don't know how you could be voting for Kamala. Please don't get me wrong. But my God, if you're Jewish, holy mackerel, you're literally voting to cut your own throat. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, how could you possibly want to vote for this woman? Because she will give Iran everything. And I mean everything, including the nuke, including the bomb. And God forbid, Russ, if the mullahs get the bomb, they will drop it on Israel. Make no mistake about it. Israel will fire back, but that's World War III. But they will drop that bomb on Israel, and they will complete what Hitler started. To everyone out there, you vote for Kamala, I'm telling you, that's what you're going to get. 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868 is the number. As I said, there were some just absolutely electrifying speeches at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania over the weekend, marking Trump's triumphant return. To me, one of the best speeches, one of the most honest, courageous speeches was by Eric Trump. And Eric Trump didn't pull any punches and he didn't mince any words. With the media present, he pointed his finger at each of them, each and every one of them, and said, you are partially responsible for what happened here 3 months ago. Your hatred of him, your demonization of him, the climate of hatred and hysteria that you have fostered against him, you and the Democratic Party, has now led to not one, but 2 assassination attempts. And the media, as I said earlier, has gone absolutely apoplectic. They're going berserk. How dare he finger us? How dare he hold us accountable? How dare he say that we're responsible for the assassination attempt? Well, I'm sorry. If the shoe fits, wear it. You keep calling him Hitler. You keep calling him a threat to democracy. You keep saying over and over again, if he wins, It's the end of elections. It's the end of America. What do you think you're fostering? It's dangerously divisive rhetoric. It's a lie. It's a monstrous lie. It's pure character assassination and defamation. But on top of that, you are ginning up now so much fear, hysteria, and hatred. Of course someone's going to go out and try to kill him. The logic is inexorable. Now, if there is violence against Trump, and more than that, and this is my real fear, believe it or not, is now the violence could be turned against Trump supporters. Against you, against me, against anyone who supports Trump or the MAGA movement. And I don't just blame the media. I blame Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I want you now to listen to this. This, to me, it has not gotten the attention that it deserves. I have never seen anything this grossly irresponsible, reckless, this is borderline criminal, from a president of the United States than what I saw on Friday. So for the first time in his entire presidency, Joey, they got him out of bed. I guess they told him to stop with the napping. Come on, let's go. They combed his hair. They put a suit on him. And they gave him some talking points. And they rolled him out at the daily White House press briefing. And it was the first time Biden did it. And it went on for about 15 minutes. And by the way, he never said a word about Hurricane Helene. It was incredible. Okay, Americans are dying. There's still many of them trapped and need to be rescued and saved. And he said nothing. Nothing. But this is what he did say. He is asked by a reporter, do you believe this will be a free, fair, and peaceful election? And do you worry about violence from Trump and his supporters? In fact, the reporter literally asks, like, are you getting domestic security reports? So MAGA is this, the implication is clear. Trump is violent. His supporters, we're violent. And we're so violent. We're like a terrorist group. Like, are you getting domestic, like the Hezbollah cells that have penetrated, the Al-Qaeda cells that we know are here. You get, daily briefings on their whereabouts and, what the FBI is doing and how they're monitoring and surveilling them. Are you getting the same on MAGA? Are you getting domestic security surveillance reports, spying reports? I mean, how bad are they? It's a loaded question. It was a deliberately premeditated loaded question. Listen to Biden's unbelievable response. Roll cut 1, Mike.
Do you have confidence that it will be a free and fair election and that it will be peaceful?
Two separate questions.
Very much.
I'm confident it'll be free and fair. I don't know whether it'll be peaceful. The things that Trump has said and the things that he said last time out when he didn't like the outcome of the election were very dangerous. If you notice, I noticed that the vice presidential Republican candidate did not say he'd accept the outcome of the election. They haven't even accepted the outcome of the last election. So I'm concerned about what they're going to do.
Are you making any preparations, getting security briefings related to domestic security?
I always get those briefings.
All right, we got to move on. Okay.
I mean, my God, the demagoguery. What, 2 assassination attempts wasn't enough for you? Huh? So here's what he's now telling the American people. Here's what he's telling his side. This is what he's telling these crazy moonbats and the Democrat base. So we're not going to accept the election results. And we're going to go crazy. And we're going to go violent. And we're going to burn city after city to the ground. that we're going to wage an armed insurrection. That's what he's saying. We're going to wage an armed insurrection. It's going to be free, and it's going to be fair, but I don't know if it's going to be peaceful. So let me get this straight. You stole the last election, and it was peaceful. Nobody took to the streets. We didn't riot. We didn't loot. We didn't plunder. We didn't burn. We didn't murder police officers or maim them or cripple them or kill civilians. We didn't do what Black Lives Matter and Antifa did throughout the entire summer of 2020 in the wake of the death of George Floyd. We didn't do what you left-wingers do. January 6th, but January 6th. So a couple thousand people breached the Capitol. By the way, completely unarmed. Oh, I'm sorry, they had a flagpole. No one had a gun. No one had a knife. This is your violent insurrection? Again, I don't want to go over old ground. The only people that were killed that day, Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan, I could go on, were Trump supporters. And you're lecturing us about peaceful elections? Are you kidding me? What he's trying to do, and this is what I mean when I say Biden is the worst president we've ever had. No one has divided us and has polarized us as badly as this demented old fool. Because here's what he said. In essence, what he said is Trump and his movement are essentially terrorists. And if they don't get their way, they're going to burn the country to the ground. And based on what evidence? They didn't accept the last election. You guys haven't accepted 2016. So let me get this straight. Hillary, by the way, is still saying the election was stolen from her. You, Joe Biden, said in 2019 that Trump was illegitimate. 2019, 3 years into his presidency, he was illegitimate. So you can call Trump illegitimate. You can say the election was stolen. But God forbid, when there's actual real theft, and we point that out, these people are insurrectionists. These are terrorists. We need a domestic security briefing. We have to spy on all of them. They are dehumanizing Trump supporters and turning us essentially into Nazi subhuman scum. That's how they're now portraying us. And I'm telling you, they're laying the groundwork for violence, but it's going to be against us. Especially if Trump wins. What they're saying is that we are too extreme, too dangerous, too much of a quote-unquote threat to democracy to ever be allowed to come into power. That's what they're really saying. Now, I'm telling you, my friends, you want to talk about being incendiary. You want to talk about being inflammatory. There's nothing a president could say that was more inflammatory than what Biden said. And what's going to start to happen now, they're not just demonizing Trump. Now they're demonizing and defaming Trump supporters. It's not just Trump that's the bad guy. We're the bad guy. We're the threat to democracy. All of us. Have they now crossed the Rubicon? With them slipping in the polls? With Trump marching to the White House? Have they now crossed the line? 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Do you fear, let's just throw it out there, since, Biden made such a big deal about it, and the media's gone, crazy. Literally, they've lost their collective minds over the weekend. saying, how dare Eric Trump blame us, the media, the Democratic Party, for the assassination attempt at Butler on Trump, 12 weeks ago. And, we're not the party of violence. It's you, the Republicans, MAGA. You're the ones that are all about hatred and violence. So the media keeps asking Biden, and he keeps saying he fears there will be massive violence on election night, especially if Trump loses. He says that's who MAGA is. We're just violent people. So we're extremists. We're insurrectionists. As he said it famously, we're enemies of the state, enemies of the people. Do you fear violence leading up to the election and on election night? Now, let me just say this. So far, 2 assassination attempts on Trump. On Kamala, 0. On Biden, 0. So all of if you're looking at political killing, political violence, political murder, it's all coming from the left and the Democrats. In fact, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Do you believe there will be violence on election night? In essence, is Joe Biden right? Will there be violence on election night? A, yes. B, no. My answer is going to shock people. I'm with Joe Biden, but it's not going to be coming from MAGA. I believe there's a very serious possibility of violence, but it's going to be coming from Black Lives Matter, from Antifa, from these pro-Hamas fanatics that you see on the streets, and from deranged Democrats. Because when you keep telling people over and over and over and over, and I mean thousands of times ad nauseum, that if Trump wins, he's the next Hitler. That if Trump wins, it's an existential threat to our democracy. That America as we know it will be gone. That we will never have another election again. That's what they keep saying. He is a dictator in waiting. Well, when the dictator wins the election, how do you think the opposition is going to react? They're going to go absolutely berserk. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just logical. It's just rational. If he's as the monster that they paint them out to be, well, you should be rioting. I mean, I never call for believe in violence or rioting of any kind, but I'm just saying, if you look at the logic of it, if he's a dictator, if he's a wannabe dictator, he's a dictator in waiting. Yeah, but you can't seat him. You can't inaugurate him. Why would you inaugurate him? It's the end of everything. And that's why I believe they are going to blow on election night when Trump pulls off the greatest political comeback in world history. But that's me. I want to hear from you. Do you believe there will be violence? A, yes. B, no on election night. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in national ER. Biden says MAGA Trump supporters will take up arms should Trump lose on election night. I say it is grossly irresponsible, reckless, borderline criminal. You want to talk about yelling fire in a crowded theater? That's what he just did. This is inflammatory and incendiary. But that's me. What say you? Alex in Burlington. Thanks for holding, Alex, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi,
Jeff. I'd just like to know what Trump's people are doing about preventing the steal. And you don't really talk much about what their strategy is.
Well, Alex, they're doing quite a bit. I mean, it's on multiple fronts. They've been waging a lot of lawsuits, and they're winning a good chunk of them. They are getting a lot of illegals and non-citizens purged from the voting rolls. And they're trying to really tighten up election laws before November 5th. So to prevent votes from being counted after November 5th, to make sure that these counts don't drag on and on and on. So they are doing quite a bit. The only thing is, Alex, and this is why everybody's very nervous, the Democrats always come up with new devious ways to steal votes and manufacture votes. And it's what we haven't caught yet that is making everybody nervous. And look, when Kamala keeps repeating over and over again that this election is going to be very close, that's the fig leaf. That's the line the media wants to peddle. In other words, this we all knew was going to be a really close election, and can you believe it? Arizona went her way. What a fluke. Nevada went her way. Georgia, 3 a.m. Atlanta, there it was. Pennsylvania, 5 a.m. Can you believe it? 400,000 votes out of nowhere in Philadelphia. In other words, that's the fear that they're going to find a way, phantom ballots, phantom voters, and steal it one more time. Now, I can just tell you this, Alex. In 2020, I kept saying over and over again, they're not watching the polls. They're not watching these drop boxes. They're going to steal this election. I was saying it for months. I had Trump's lawyers on. I had Trump on. And, you want to talk about overconfidence. They didn't seem to take the threat of voter fraud very seriously. And that's, I think, how the Democrats were able to prevail. This time, Lara Trump, co-chair RNC, Trump himself, his children, his sons, J.D. Vance, they've got a lot of lawyers now. They know the Democrats are going to try to cheat. So we've got many more poll watchers, over 170,000 poll watchers. So we're going to be watching the polls, purging the rolls, and suing a lot of these states to try to tighten these election laws. So they're doing a lot. Hopefully it's enough. That's the only, Alex, if this was anything close to a free and fair election, Trump wins in a landslide. There's no question. So now the only question, they're going to steal votes. The only question now is, can the Democrats steal enough? And that's why everybody's waiting for November 5th. That's the only undecided question.
When you had, I don't know his first name, Valentine was on, he said that the stuff that he was exposing, that the Trump team knew nothing about it. So I'm just kind of curious about that type of stuff. Why wasn't
Jay Valentine, I had somebody in the Trump team. I got to be careful how I couch this, Alex, because I never want to burn, sources, and because some people don't want to be named. So I got to be careful. But I reached out to the Trump team immediately and laid out exactly in a memo what Jay Valentine told me. I gave them some very important links, contact information, and my understanding is they have reached out to Jay Valentine. They're very aware now of these, what he calls phantom voters and phantom votes. And they are now, they're catching him now. They're catching him in Michigan. They've caught him in Wisconsin. They're catching him in Georgia. They're catching him in Arizona. They're catching him in other states as well. But in some of these battleground states, they've been caught. Illegals have been registering to vote at phantom addresses. So they are starting to catch them. And, we'll see. Alex, Look, that's the thing. The devil works in the shadows. We work in the light. We're open. We're transparent. The devil never is. We shall see. Why I'm hopeful, and I know people have rightly, people are right to be cynical and skeptical. I understand that. I agree with you to a certain extent. But why is the Kuhner man optimistic? Kuhner man is optimistic because I know the reaction inside Kamala's camp. I'm telling you, they're nervous. So if this thing was in the bag, the steal was, guaranteed, they wouldn't be nervous. She's very nervous. She's nervous. Her team is nervous. The media is nervous. So what they're seeing is a tsunami for Trump. And that's what it is. It's going to be a political tsunami. And they're asking themselves, I don't think we can make up the difference. Can we make up the difference? I don't think so. And that's why Trump is saying, I will pass election integrity laws within the first 100 days of my administration. We are going to end corrupt, stolen elections. But we got to win. And the way to win is to swamp the polls. If we come out in such massive numbers, it does get to a point that they can't cheat. Because then there are more people voting than who are registered to vote. And then that means they'll be caught, and it will lead to a massive legal, constitutional, political crisis that will bring down the entire regime. So if we come out in maximum numbers, no one stays home under any circumstances, and you bring 10 people with you, and I'm going to get into this in about a couple days. I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit early, but I'm going to issue a challenge to everybody listening to this show. You have to bring 10 people with you to the polls. Not 2, not 4, not even 5. 10. 10. I'm going to bring 10. I told Grace, you got to bring 10. I don't care what it takes. Email them, call them, text them, have coffee with them. Jeff, this is time consuming. This is our country. I'm sorry. This is our children and our grandchildren. Don't be nasty. Don't be mean. Persuade them. People are persuadable. I'm telling you. I don't care if it's family members, friends, 10 people to the polls. So you bring yourself and 10. If we all do that, Trump wins. And that's what Elon Musk was really emphasizing. I thought he also delivered an incredible speech. And it was a warning, a dark warning. Look, this is no clown. This is the wealthiest man in the world. This is a man who for most of his life was a moderate Democrat. Only in the last couple of years has he become a Trump supporter. And he's saying, I know what the party has become. I know how evil and bad and destructive they are. I know what their plans are for us. His warning in Butler was, if we lose this election, this could be the last election we ever have. Truly meaningful, real election. In other words, everything that the left is saying about us, it's projection. It's true about them. And Elon is saying, you got to register to vote. You got to register your friends, your family. As he put it, you've got to move your ass. And as he pointed to Trump, this guy's taking bullets for you. He's going 3, 4, 5. I'm telling you, Alex, 5 campaign stops a day. He is going to exhaust himself. He's pushing himself 18, 20 hours a day. But there's only so much one man can do. And Elon is saying, look, I'm sorry to impose this on you, but you voting for him is no longer enough because of the voting fraud and the cheat. You've got to bring other people with you to the polls. Make sure they're registered and then get them to vote. Now, if we all do our little part, we win. I'm telling you, Alex, we will win. Take it to the bank. But if we don't do our little part, then we're going to lose. And in the end, we're going to have no one to blame but ourselves. Because they wanted to steal the country more than we wanted to save it. So that's my challenge. And I'm going to keep issuing this now all the way to November 5th. You vote and get 10 people to vote. 7 is not enough. 8 is not enough. 9 is not enough. You don't stop until you get to 10. And then once they pledge to you they're going to vote for Trump, you make sure they go to the polls. You go vote. If you got to, take election day off. I'm serious. Take election day. You're not going to die. Take a sick day. Whatever. Take election day off. You vote, and then you nag and pester them to make sure they voted. And if you got to drive them to the polls, you drive them to the polls. Say, okay, here you go. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere, and I'll drive you back when you're done. Thank you. We all do that. We've saved our country. No one's asking us to pick up a gun. No one's asking us to storm the beaches of Normandy. No one's asking us to fight the British in the freezing cold, waging guerrilla war. No one's asking us to, charge at Gettysburg and get slaughtered in the gunfire. All we're asking, this is what Elon said, is for us to politically put everything on the line. Now, I'm going to deliver my 10. Grace is going to deliver her 10. That I can tell you. Even in this blue state. No, I don't. Let them fight for Massachusetts. Let them fight. Because the more they have to fight to hold on to blue states, that gives us bigger opportunities in the battleground, the purple states and the red states. Drain them, exhaust them. So I'm going to get my 10. You have my word. Grace is going to get her 10. You have her word. I need a commitment from all of you. Not 5, not 8, 10. We get 10, this thing is over. Alex, final word to you.
But I think stuff like that would only hold true for swing states. Unfortunately, Massachusetts, I don't think is going to go in Trump's camp. But I have just one more question. When you say like states like Pennsylvania, if he wins Pennsylvania, the race is over. Why do you say stuff like that?
Well, because the polling looks like he's going to win Arizona. And he's looking very good in Nevada. And then you've got, remember, because their blue wall, the Democrats' strategy is, if all else fails, they always can rely on 3 states to bail them out in the Electoral College. Because the Electoral College is everything, as you know. So they start with a huge advantage. They have California, they have New York, they have Illinois. So these are rich states in terms of delegates. We counter with Texas and Florida, which is good, but it doesn't match California, Illinois, and New York. So they have a natural advantage. Now, the Democrats always feel that even if they lose Ohio, which is a big state, and they lose a lot of southern states, which is a lot, they can always fall back on their infamous blue wall. That's why Hillary Clinton was so confident in 2016. She said, so what? He runs the table in in large parts of the Midwest and in the South. And yeah, he'll get Florida. He'll get Texas. Okay. But we've got Michigan and we've got Wisconsin and we've got Minnesota. And that's our blue wall. And that's going to put us over the top. Well, the problem now is if Arizona goes for Trump, and it will, and Nevada goes to Trump, and it will, and now Kamala has really alienated voters over Hurricane Helene in Georgia and North Carolina. Well, I'm telling you, you look at the electoral map, Trump is almost there. If he then gets Pennsylvania, It's over. It's over. And I think he's going to get more than Pennsylvania. Don't get me wrong. But that's going to be, statistically, I think it's like 272 at the Electoral College. So, it'll be razor thin. But Pennsylvania puts him over the top. He doesn't even need to win Michigan or New Hampshire or Wisconsin. But now he's threatening to destroy their blue wall. You see, Kamala needs Georgia. If she doesn't win Georgia, then she has to win Pennsylvania. She's not going to win Georgia, and she's not going to win Pennsylvania. So if Trump, all he's got to do is win the Southwest, scoop up Georgia, scoop up North Carolina, scoop up Pennsylvania, 272. Bye-bye. That's the majority in the Electoral College. This thing is over. He's going to win Michigan. I'm telling you he's going to win Michigan. And I believe now he's really in a good position to win Wisconsin. So he's going to shatter their blue wall. That's why I believe Trump is going to get 300 plus Electoral College votes. I don't know what the popular vote. I think he's going to win the popular vote. But let's say it's very close. Even Kamala slightly beats him on the popular. He's getting 300 Electoral College votes. That 820 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, just a quickly exclamation point and on that last, just before the break, on the last point that I wanted to make, which is this, about the Electoral College. This is what Trump is playing now. It's like a repeat of 2016. He's not interested in racking up the popular vote. Popular vote in many ways is irrelevant. What matters is the Electoral College. And so, unlike Kamala, she's spending a lot of time in New York. She's spending a lot of time in LA, in Hollywood, in San Francisco, doing media interviews, fundraising, hobnobbing with Hollywood stars and celebrities. But she's not on the ground, barnstorming those key swing states. Trump is. By the way, so is J.D. Vance. And so there's not any one of these swing states that any day that doesn't have either J.D. or Trump. And sometimes both. Now, just to get to the math, because the math is now going to determine everything. If Trump can win those Sun Belt states, and it looks now very good for him, Arizona and Nevada, that puts him in a very strong position for the Electoral College. Say Trump wins North Carolina in the wake of Hurricane Helene, and Kamala wins Georgia, then Trump has to win Pennsylvania. He has to. It's a must-win state for him. However, if Trump wins Georgia, that's why for Kamala's people, they can even afford to lose Pennsylvania if they can hang on and win Georgia again. Okay, Biden stole it in 2020. They're hoping to, hold on to it and keep it in the Democrat column. Then they can still afford to lose Pennsylvania and hope that the blue wall, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, bails them out. However, and this is the Trump strategy, we take Arizona, we take Nevada, we take North Carolina and Georgia. And that's why Trump is spending so much time there. And then we take Pennsylvania. That's practically the ball game. In terms of the Electoral College, you remember, you need 270. The magic number is 270. Then you're at 272. Now, it's 272, 268. It's razor thin. It's incredibly close. But you're there. So, even if you lose the popular vote, who cares? Even if you lose it by 2, 3, 4 percentage points, as long as you get to 270, you're in the clear. Or 272 in Trump's case. So this is why winning North Carolina, winning Georgia, winning Arizona, winning Nevada really sets Trump up now for a massive comeback victory. if he can get Pennsylvania. Now, say Kamala wins one of those states. This is why Trump is working overtime in Michigan, especially Michigan and in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, the polls are neck and neck. Michigan, Trump has a lead. If he smashes the blue wall, then this thing is really over. Then we're talking 300 electoral college votes, which is like in 2016. Then it's a strong majority. So that's why Trump and JD are going to be living in those states. Now, if I was to make a criticism of this strategy, and overall I think it's an excellent strategy. Okay, please don't get me wrong. You're playing where the game is going to be won. That's where you should be playing. But if you notice, and by the way, they're hoping to flip New Mexico. They're hoping to flip Virginia. Minnesota, this thing is starting to blow up on Tim Walz. Minnesota is neck and neck. Now, they flip any of those states, I mean, then it's really over. I mean, then we're talking a mother landslide, okay? But let's say they don't flip anything, okay, just for the sake of argument. There's one state that I believe they're not devoting enough resources to. And I understand half the argument. Well, it's not a big state. There's just a handful of electoral college votes. We're going for the bigger pot. You know, Pennsylvania, big pot. Michigan, Georgia, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Arizona. Those are some big pot electoral college votes. But it's New Hampshire. Okay? The Granite State, the Freedom State. Okay? Live free or die state. New Hampshire is Trump country. And I think that Trump can easily win New Hampshire. I think it's theirs for him for the taking. And I wouldn't neglect New Hampshire. And at a minimum, I'd be sending JD to New Hampshire to rally the people, raise money, get the message out, get more signs, have more people go door to door, put together a better ground game. They're kind of neglecting and ignoring New Hampshire. And I don't know why. I get it. In terms of all the 7 battleground states, it has the smallest electoral vote total. But in this election, with everything that's on the line, you need every state, every electoral college vote you can get. 8:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are jammed. Let's go to Mike in Saugus. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Jeff, thanks for taking my call. Listen, Jeff, I'm not a fighter like you, but I was out in Wakefield Saturday with my megaphone and my Trump signs. I had a couple of other people with me. These people in Massachusetts, you say anything about Kamala Harris, they want to go after you. I had several people come close to me, and I told them, you better get the hell away, because I got mace in my pocket, and I will mace you in the face. And they backed off. These people are raving maniacs. These people in Massachusetts that are Democrats.
Oh, Mike, believe me, I know. Look, one of the most intolerant people I've ever met are Massachusetts moonbats. They're vicious. They're intolerant. They're illiberal. They can't stand any dissent, any opposition. The moment they find out you don't toe the Democrat line, they're like animals. You're right. They threaten you. They swear at you. They want to destroy you. Look, they've been trying to take me off the air now for 10 years. I mean, like, they're obsessed with getting me off the air. Like, these people are sick. And yet, they're the same ones. Honestly, Mike, it makes me throw up. Tolerance and diversity and compassion. And I'm like, you can't brook any intellectual diversity. You have no compassion for anybody who disagrees with you. And the last thing you have is any tolerance for anybody who is slightly to the right of Vladimir Lenin. They're left-wing lunatics. And Mike, you're right. The moment you start confronting them with the most basic facts and information, they go crazy. Think of them as a medieval religion, and then you'll start to understand them better. It's like, 700, 8 years ago, when, people were like, well, no, the earth is not flat. No, the earth is round. Burn them at the stake. Burn them at the stake. It's an orthodoxy. They have this propaganda in their head, these dogmas, and like very dogmatic, fanatical, zealous people. They're zealots. They cannot deal with any opposition, any criticism, any truth, any dissent. And that's why they feel the constant need to censor, suppress, cancel, intimidate, bully, threaten, and in some cases use actual violence. So, Mike, I've got to ask you the $64,000 question. God forbid, do you believe there will be violence if Trump wins? Do you think the left is just going to erupt in rage and take it to the streets like they did in the summer of 2020?
It would be worse, Jeff.
Oh, worse, really?
If people are going to go out, you have to go out in numbers, and you have to have something to protect yourself, because they will get in your face. And who knows what they have. We're going to support our President, Donald J. Trump. I will do it right to the last day, because I think he is going to be the best president ever.
From your lips to God's ears. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that call. Look, to me, watch election night, especially if it's an early victory for Trump, and we'll know pretty quickly. If by, let's say 10, 11 o'clock, maybe midnight, and they go, no, Trump's won this one. You watch the reaction. Ho, 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 ho. Watch. Oh, man, are they going to go to the streets? But it's as sure as the sun will rise. They will take it to the streets. And then right away, we have to pounce. And that's what I've been telling President Trump. Right away, they're the election deniers. They're the insurrectionists. Lock them all up. Lock them up. Arrest them, put them behind bars, and give them 10, 15, 20-year jail sentences. Turn the tables on them. And that's the only way you can beat them. If you go soft, they're going to run wild, and they're going to so run wild for months, I believe they're not going to let Trump be inaugurated. I'm telling you right now. They're going to try to claim martial law, country's too violent, there's pandemonium and rioting on the streets. So Trump's got to stay very calm, come out, call for unifying the country, tell these people to stop. But right away, you can't deny an election. You have to accept the results of the election. And we don't tolerate political violence in this country. This is an insurrection. And the way everybody was treated after January 6th, now you're going to be treated the exact same way. What's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Trump's got to stick to that line again and again and again. Dave in Stoneham. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
How are you doing?
Dave, I'm doing very well. How are you?
Jeff, I'll tell you something. With everything that's been going on, and I just want to recap something. Last week, when Harris was in Carolina and everything, doing the hurricane and trying to check things all out, and you got everybody trying to say, yeah, here's $750, we're going to buy your land, and you got no choice. Jeff, that actually reminded me of a movie, and I'm sure you remember it, The Grapes of Wrath. when they're trying to buy everybody's land up,
yes,
kick them off their land, and it reminded me of that. Where are these people going to go, Jeff? They got no other place to go, and the government ain't doing a damn thing. And then on the news this morning, they're saying, they're sending in more National Guard troops to, Carolina and help out with the hurricane going on. And Biden's sitting back on the beach someplace. Who knows what he's doing? I mean, Jeff, what are they going to do? We got another storm coming this way now. What are they going to do when that storm hits Florida, Jeff? That's going to come up the other side of the coastline and probably take out the other part of Carolina. And on top of that, I'm curious, Jeff, can the people of North Carolina go to South Carolina to vote? And one other thing, Jeff, I saw a drop box up on Columbia Road the other day for ballots.
It's incredible. No, I know. They leave these drop boxes. There's no cameras. There's no surveillance. There's no monitoring whatsoever. You can go and scoop up and print 2, 3, 4, 500, 1,000 ballots. Homeless people, just sign here. You're voting for Kamala. Okay. Nursing homes, you can take advantage of elderly people. Just sign here. I mean, it's the level of fraud that you can engage in it's unbelievable. You can actually get the list of who has voted and who has not voted in the last 4 elections. And literally look down the list and you say, here, let me just make up a name. Mr. Smith here on 1 Johnson Street. Okay, hasn't voted in the last 4 elections. Probably won't vote in this one. Let's put his name down. Okay, do a fake signature. They don't check signatures. Check-a-roo, Kamala Harris, stick it in there. There's no oversight. It's that easy to cheat and to steal. It's frightening. Again, if you haven't seen the movie Vindicating Trump, Dave, I urge you and all the listeners out there, go see it. It's an incredible movie. It's actually very uplifting, very optimistic, really gives you a great insight into Trump and the whole MAGA movement. But there is a segment there on voter fraud. It is going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. And you're going to say, it's that easy? They're turning our country into a joke. So, no, Dave, look, there's no money left in FEMA. They've sent it all to the illegals, 1.4 million. And let me tell you the big story over the weekend. Kamala Harris, I can read to you the X, her Twitter, or whatever you want to call it now, her tweet on X. She came out and said that she's proud. She and Biden are proud to be sending Lebanon $157 million. And she said the $157 million is to help rebuild Lebanon, to help with recovery operations because there's a war going on, to rescue people, and to help rebuild Lebanon, and to send them food and water and emergency and medical supplies. And you're just reading this and you're like, and the people in North Carolina, blank you, Georgia, blank you, East Tennessee, blank you. So we have money for Lebanon. We have no money for our own citizens. You want to know what America last looks like? This is it. 8:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very, very quickly, you need to hear this. One of the reasons why Elon Musk at this tremendous rally, really was an electrifying rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, warned the American people, you don't vote for Trump, I'm telling you this could be the last election. Not because there's going to be a Hitler dictatorship, not because they're going to start rounding people up into death camps and concentration camps, but because the Democrats now have fully embraced censorship as a means to crush their opponents and to suppress all dissent. So I want you to hear this. The Hildebeest, Hillary Clinton, is back. And if you remember, I played the cuts last week. She said, not only are we deplorables, we're now even worse than deplorables. And that we are so brainwashed, according to them, and so dangerous, that as Hillary Clinton said, some of us need to be sent to jail because we're engaging in election interference on behalf of the Russians. That whether we know it or not, we are stooges of Vladimir Putin, and we are engaging in propaganda. And so she said Trump supporters now either need to be put behind bars, I'm quoting her like directly, or be given massive civil fines. Then she said that Trump supporters need to be quote unquote deprogrammed, which is another way of saying re-education camps or gulags. Now, listen to Hillary Clinton, because she didn't just double down, she now tripled down. She's now pushing what Waltz is fully advocating. Waltz has now come out and said that we must regulate social media and the internet, that we need censorship to combat, quote unquote, misinformatio, as the Russians would put it, misinformation, disinformation. And what's misinformation or disinformation? Dissent from the regime, criticism of the regime, criticism of liberalism, or of Democratic Party rule. Well, here's the Hildebeest now saying, no. Free speech is over. The First Amendment is over. We need mass censorship, especially on social media, on the internet, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X. Otherwise, we're going to lose total control. Listen now to the Hildebeest. We have to moderate content, she put it, which is another word for censorship. If we don't moderate content, it's all over for Democrats. Roll cut 28, Mike.
This should be at the top of every legislative political agenda. There should be a lot of things done. We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave, platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm. It's, child porn and threats of violence, things that are terribly dangerous.
See, now it's the children, huh? By the way, they don't push child porn. X does not push child porn. Facebook does not push child porn. That's a lie. That's a grotesque lie. That's number one. Number two, no, what she really means, and that's what she was getting at, is how dare you criticize the COVID lockdowns? How dare you? How dare you say that closing down schools was bad for the children? That was misinformation. Mask mandates, misinformation. They're pushing the jab, the vaccine mandates, saying there were all these adverse reactions. Misinformation. That she and her husband made tens of millions of dollars off of the plight and the tragedy of the suffering of the people in Haiti. That's misinformation. That she sold Russia huge deposits and stockpiles of our uranium. That's misinformation. The Hunter Biden laptop. Misinformatio. This coming from a woman who lied and pushed the Russia-Trump collusion hoax. It came directly from her and her campaign. Now, my point is very simple, and this is Elon's point. And this was J.D. Vance's point at the vice presidential debate. And of course, the media had no rebuttal because it's true. Don't go on about us being a threat to democracy. Who are the ones pushing for mass censorship? You. Mass surveillance? You. Jailing your political opponents? You. Sending people to re-education camps? You. Literally killing your political opponents? You. Jailing your political opponents? You. Listen now to Elon. Whatever you're doing, please stop. You got to hear this. Here is the world's wealthiest man, an American entrepreneur, really an American success story, whatever you think about him, who's a moderate Democrat who said, I've been a Democrat most of my life. I know all the top people in the party. I know the oligarchs who fund them. I know what they have in store for us if Kamala wins. Listen to Elon deliver a very dark warning to everybody, every single American. Roll cut 19, Mike.
This is a must-win situation. Must win. So I have one ask for everyone in the audience, everyone who watches this video, everyone on the live stream. There's one request. It's very important. Register to vote. Okay? And get everyone you know and everyone you don't know, drag them to register to vote. There's only 2 days left to register to vote in Georgia and Arizona. 48 hours. Like, text people now. Now. And then make sure they actually do vote. If they don't, this will be the last election. That's my prediction.
Now, why? Why? Why is it going to be the last election according to Elon? Please listen to him. He says because they're going after the First Amendment. And they will destroy the First Amendment. They want mass censorship. And then they're going to go for the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And then they're going to go for a full amnesty for over 20 million illegals, making them permanent Democratic voters, creating one-party progressive rule. And we will never have another real competitive election again. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights will be destroyed. You will your fundamental freedoms will be taken away. Essentially, this is me. He didn't say this. I'm saying this. You're going to see a communist revolution. But Elon's point is freedom of speech, gone. Right to bear arms, gone. A competitive two-party system, gone. He goes, I'm telling you, this is going to be the last election. I'm a Democrat. I don't agree with Trump on many issues. For the sake of our country, we must get this man in power to save it from this radical left-wing takeover that will happen if Kamala wins in November. Listen now to Elon. Roll cut 20, Mike.
Free speech is the bedrock of democracy. And if people don't know what's going on, if they don't know the truth, how can you make an informed vote? You must have free speech in order to have democracy. That's why it's the First Amendment. And the Second Amendment is there to ensure that we have the First Amendment.
He's completely right. I'm telling you, he's completely right. And if I can just say this as a naturalized American, and I can't tell you how proud I am to be a naturalized American, okay, to be an American citizen. It is to me, one outside of marrying my wife and my two beautiful children who we adopted, It is the greatest achievement of my life. Okay, I'm telling you this right now. But I got to say something, and I don't mean this as an insult to natural-born Americans, because you know how much I respect and love all of you. But sometimes it takes an immigrant, a legal, naturalized immigrant, like myself, or in this case, Elon, to point out to many other Americans who take things for granted the true greatness of this country and where that greatness is. And I'm telling you, it is not in our wealth. It is not in our prosperity. It isn't. It's not in our popular culture. It's not, I mean, I can go on and on about, there's so many things about America that people find intoxicating. And look, do I love the wealth and prosperity? Of course. Do I love, here, look, you can see a movie like Vindicating Trump. You know, you pay $10 and it's one of the best movies you could ever see. I was watching a little bit of The Twilight Zone over the weekend, relaxing, kicking back. Great show. I know it's a bit of an oldie and a classic, but great show. Look, there's so much to appreciate and love in this country. But I'm telling you, the First Amendment, that written Constitution, that is the foundation of everything this republic stands on. That is what makes America truly unique and truly exceptional in the world. And it is backed up by the Second Amendment, because as Elon rightly says, without the Second Amendment, you can't have the First Amendment. All of this now is being betrayed by the Democratic Party. It is under assault. And they're not hiding it anymore. They're telling us to our face, we want to get rid of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, the whole damn thing. Listen now to Elon saying what this election is now fundamentally about is about our freedom, our birthrights, and let me flip it on the left. Our democracy is at stake. Contrary to what the left is saying, Trump poses no threat to this country or its so-called quote-unquote democracy, even though we're a republic, and I've said this about 1,000 times, but let that go. Did Trump jail any opponent? None. When he was in power. One journalist. Did he even indict a single journalist? Did he send anybody to prison? None. Niet. Look what Biden has done in the last 3.5 years. How many people, political opponents, he sent to jail? How many people he censored? And how they want to do more of it and intensify it. Listen now to Elon. Roll cut 21, Mike.
True test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight! Blood coming down the face.
You got to be on drugs if you're voting for Kamala Harris. I'm sorry. Look, with everything that's at stake and everything that Trump stands for, and then you combine how this guy took a bullet to the face and blood gushing down his cheek, and he gets up and he's pumping his fist, fight, 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 fight. And what is she doing? She's giving an interview on a sex podcast. Swear to God. A vulgar sex podcast. That's so she's talking dirty sex, and this guy's trying to save the country. 617-266-6868. Chuck in Dayton. Thanks for holding, Chuck, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Love you, buddy.
Hi, Chuck. Thank you, Chuck.
I just want to say, they're going back and forth about how they're talking about how, we're going to steal the election and we know they're going to try to steal the election, so on and so forth. There's going to be, fights in the streets and from both, whatever. Okay, very easy to stop this. Fix the elections, one-day voting, proof of ID that you're an American citizen and registered to vote. End of story. This all ends. Nobody can complain.
Chuck, let me ask you a question, my friend. If you're living in North Carolina right now, or Georgia, or Tennessee, or South Carolina, or parts even of Virginia, or Florida, obviously, and you want to apply for your FEMA $750 check, Chuck, do you have to show photo ID to get your check? Or do you not have to show photo ID to get your check? What do you think the answer would be?
Listen, Jeff, of course you have to show your photo ID to prove
there
who
you
you
go,
are.
Chuck. You see, Chuck, to get your $750 check, you've got to show proof of ID. Chuck, but to vote, God forbid, it's racism, Chuck, to ask them for a voter ID or a photo ID. So to collect that $750 dinky check, blank you, show me the ID. But to vote, don't you dare, Chuck. Chuck, it's racist, Chuck. What say you, Chuck?
Jeff, I have to show my photo ID to get that measly $750, which Kamala Harris can wipe her you-know-what with. I have to show my ID to fly in a plane. I have to show my ID to buy liquor. I have to show my ID to get a pack of cigarettes. I have to show my ID to have a checking account. I have to show my ID to rent a car. But I don't have to show my ID for the most sacred thing in the world, to vote for my country that I, live in and my taxes go to, and so on and so forth. Give me a break.
Drop the mic. Chuck, drop the mic. Thank you for that call, Chuck. By the way, I had to pick up some medications at CVS. Guess what? What do you think they asked me to do? Show my ID. So I asked the woman, behind the cashier, and not in a hostile way, just like I'm acting like I'm just curious. I go, has anybody ever come? Anybody? And I said, if you don't mind me asking, miss, of any color, black, white, brown, men, women, young, old, gay, straight. I said, whoever, any customer here at CVS. And I said, I assume you get them all. She goes, oh, yeah, all races, all genders, all, you name it. We get it all here. Has anybody not been able to produce an ID? No. Everybody has an ID. I said, oh, I'm just curious. So they don't say it's racist. She's like, why? And then she looks back. She goes, why would they say it's racist? I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't want to get political with the woman. But I say, so no one's ever complained to you that it's racist for them to have to show ID to get their medications, certain medications. No, not at all. So there you go. I mean, it's beyond disgusting and despicable. It really is. Of course you need to show ID to vote. In most countries around the world, you have to show ID to vote. Of course you have to be a citizen to vote. Of course you want to have same-day voting, and preferably with paper ballots. So there's no dispute, so it's a clean election. No, the reason why they want a month of early voting and massive mail-in voting and drop boxes and ballot trafficking and ballot harvesting and no voter ID is to make it as easy as possible to steal. That's why the laws are designed that way, to make cheating easier, not harder. Thank you for that call, Chuck, as always. 617-266-6868. All right. How much time left, Mike? All right. Do me a favor. This was J.D. Vance. I think he had one of the best lines of the whole rally in Butler, Roll cut 23. Mike.
After the heartache of that day, our nation hoped to turn a page. We hoped that our opponents would remember that before we are Democrats or before we are Republicans, we are Americans. But sadly, our opponents have not heeded Abraham Lincoln's words and listened to the better angels of our nature. Even after that terrible assassination attempt that took one man's life and nearly took many others, they continue to use dangerous, inflammatory rhetoric. The media has continued to call Donald Trump, the guy who actually won his primary, a threat to democracy. A Democrat senator called Donald Trump an existential threat to our democracy. Kamala Harris said that he was attacking, quote, the foundations of our democracy. And I think you all will join me in saying to Kamala Harris, how dare you talk about threats to democracy? Donald Trump took a bullet for democracy. What the hell have you done?
Yeah, baby. I mean, that's the killer line. He took a bullet. Again, we're a republic, but anyway, everybody keeps using the term democracy. He took a bullet for democracy. Kamala, what the hell have you done? Except, sleep your way to the top. 9:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
One first thing, if any Trump campaign people listen or anybody who does not want to vote for Kamala Harris or anybody thinks they should vote for her, it's kind of humorous, and none of us looks like we appeared before we were 30 years old. It's very unflattering. Google Kamala Harris, bad hair, and then select images. And you're going to see an expert from the Washington Post go down about 20 photos. You'll see a picture of her circa 2019. It looks like 28 miles of bad road. She's not what she looks like today. And the reason I bring this up is she is phony in every aspect. You'll get a good laugh when you see this. And what the Trump campaign should do is they should show that picture and said she has unburdened herself from what she has been, in her own words. Anyway, check it out. Anyway, New Hampshire, yeah, that's in my backyard, and I don't mean that I live there. It's one of my dark horses. I got to believe, and I'm not a big Kelly Ayotte fan, but I would have to vote for her if I was there. I believe she can win against the wench who's the mayor of Manchester. If she wins, I don't see how anybody grabbing a ballot, checking her off, would not also check off Trump. I think he can win Virginia possibly, because when I look at the polls, all I see are about a half a dozen or more polls by people who have favored her, polls that have favored her, like New York Times, Siena, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing there for Trump at all. I think they're not spending much money there at all, and that could be a dark horse. I think she can. I think he can win Nevada, as you said, and even if it comes up a tie in the electoral map, Trump still wins because he has the majority of the states that are controlled by Republican congressmen. So I think he can win. As you say, Jeff, we have to get out there and vote, and unfortunately, we have to vote for the congressmen as well, even though they haven't really done what we asked them to do, especially in impeaching Garland and in putting him in jail, by the way, for what he won't do. My dream wish is that if Trump becomes elected, I would first send a letter to Obama and ask him for that list of 572 unmasking names that were supplied by Weekly when he was still in power at his weekly meetings, strategizing against Trump, and that was for the FBI and the CIA to start looking at these people. Who was on there? Papadopoulos, Flynn, et cetera, Manafort, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm saying is he will not surrender it because the last we knew from Susan Rice, it was in his library, which didn't exist, by the way, when she said this several years ago. But they're building one now, but it's someplace. And if he doesn't give it up, I would raid his Illinois estate. I would raid his Martha's Vineyard estate and also his estate in Hawaii, and treat him the way they treated Trump. Because on that list, that is a top secret document that should not be released to anybody. It certainly shouldn't be in his library. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Nick. That's an excellent point. That's a superb point. Look, Trump's going to have a lot on his plate, obviously, when he wins in November. And notice I'm saying when, because I'm telling you right now, if Trump loses, the only possible explanation is going to be they stole it. That's the only way now they can win it. I think there's no question. Look, he's going to have to put the right people in. I know who he wants now as the director of the CIA. She's phenomenal. I know who he wants as the head of the FBI. That person is phenomenal. They're going to have to get to the bottom and expose that Obama, in collusion with Biden and Hillary, deliberately spied on Trump and his people and then targeted them once Trump was sworn in to destroy and sabotage his entire presidency and administration. That truth has to come out, and I believe it will. Now, look, as for New Hampshire, I agree with Mike, our producer here on the show. This election is going to now show whether New Hampshire is truly a purple state or basically now a Massachusetts junior state, whether it's now just an extension of Massachusetts. And I think the Trump people are banking on Kelly Ayotte to win and hoping that, people who vote for Ayotte will vote for Trump. And that Trump has strong coattails and can drag Kelly Ayotte across the finish line. How anybody can vote for Joyce Craig is beyond me. That woman has run Manchester into the ground. Seriously, right into the ground. No, look, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Trump won New Hampshire in 2016. It was stolen. And I believe he won it in 2020 and it was stolen again. So if the only slight mistake I believe the Trump people are making, otherwise a flawless election strategy, is I would pour more money, more resources, and more of a ground game into New Hampshire. Don't write off New Hampshire. You're going to need every vote, every electoral college vote you can get. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. Okay, just a very quick update. Sandy and I were just talking off air, and she's looked at the latest batch of polls. Kelly Ayotte is currently, again, it's a combination of polls, but the average is she's leading Joyce Craig by 3. She's up 3 points over Joyce Craig. And as I said to both Mike and Sandy, Joyce Craig to me really is just another Maura Healey. She truly is. If you look at her record, her agenda, her policies, in some ways her personality, she's very off-putting, the way Maura Healey is, very controlling, very condescending. So you look at someone like Joyce Craig, it's almost like a replica of Maura Healey. And we're going to find out this election whether New Hampshire really now has become a mini Massachusetts, or is it still a genuine purple state? I think Trump's strength is underestimated in New Hampshire. But what I want to ask, again, let me throw this log on the fire. For those of you that live in New Hampshire, do you feel that the Trump campaign is doing everything that they can to win New Hampshire? What I'm hearing from people on the ground is they wish they'd spend more money on TV ads, radio ads. I know there's a ton of Trump signs, no question, but more of a ground game, knocking on doors, going door to door, getting Trump to come to New Hampshire, or at least J.D. Vance. Look, I understand Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, much bigger states, much bigger much higher electoral college votes. So I understand that in terms of a pot of votes. New Hampshire can't compete with those states. But if it's going to be close, you're going to need every electoral college vote. And I believe New Hampshire is very winnable for Trump. You don't want to leave it on the table. That's me. What say you? 617-266-6868. Marie in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Marie, and welcome.
Thank you, and thank you, Jeff, for having me on.
My pleasure.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear, Marie. Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
So I'm with the Weymouth Republican Town Committee, and I wrote an article for the Boston Broadside in September with the title "Weymouth Mayor Charged with Allowing Suspension of Republican Warden That He Appointed," and that's me. I don't know if you had a chance to read the article, but
I did.
Really,
I read it. I thought it was an excellent article.
So there's a real concern that we don't have enough poll workers. And then when you get rid of me as a warden and I recruit other poll workers, we had a list of 54 Republicans ready, willing, and able to work in September, and only 31 worked. So
that's incredible.
Right. There's a battle to be had, and every town, Republican Town Committee can appoint election officers. And if Republicans out there aren't clamoring to be election officers, shame on you. This is the point of the spear where you can work and protect election integrity directly.
Marie, look, I don't want to do any finger pointing just yet. I want to wait for the election to happen and then let the chips fall where they may in terms of Massachusetts politics, okay? But okay. Let me ask you. I just want to ask you this. And I want to give me your unfiltered opinion. No. Is she doing enough to make sure that we have poll watchers, that we make sure there isn't massive fraud and cheating taking place? Is she doing everything she possibly can to help Republican, especially pro-Trump candidates in places like Weymouth and across the entire Commonwealth?
No, because she needs to work much harder with her state committee men and women to educate town committees to recruit election officers, and she's showing some slight interest in that. I actually did one training, but not sure if I'll be welcome back or not.
So basically what she's giving you is a little help, but not very much help.
Right.
That's unbelievable. The most important election of our lifetime, maybe in the nation's history. And look, I get it. You know, I mean, Sandy and I were talking about this off air. Massachusetts in some ways is a lost cause. It's a deep, deep blue state. I get it. But fight him here so we can free up resources, say, in New Hampshire. Because what happens is when we concede Massachusetts, and look, I'll get to this story, I promise. I have it in my back pocket. They just found and charged a Massachusetts couple with voting illegally in New Hampshire. So what everybody in New Hampshire has been suspecting, they just found that story broke, I think, about a week ago or 10 days ago. So we know what's happening, that they're diverting money to help Democrats in New Hampshire. They're double dipping. They have people voting here and then voting in New Hampshire, or just have them vote in New Hampshire and don't bother voting here because they have it in the bag. And so I know the Trump people, this was months ago, said, if we could give Elizabeth Warren in particular a war, a political war, and fight her here and contest in district after district, like what you want to do, and challenge them in election after election, seat after seat, and watch the fraud, watch the cheating. Okay, maybe you're not going to win, but you force them to plunk so much money, time, resources, effort, that'll make it so much easier for New Hampshire to win. And instead, they're practically giving away the state to the Democrats. I've never seen, honestly, such fickle, ineffective non-opposition in my life. In my life. I'm telling you, I swear to you, the Republicans in California fight harder against Newsom and the Democrats than the Republicans do in this state. Am I wrong, Marie?
I think, no, you're not wrong. I think you have to fight on multiple tiers, and I'm on the grassroots. I'm not saying the party doesn't fight on a higher level of exposing, but we have to be on the grassroots, Republicans in every poll, equal numbers of Republicans in every polling station, and there's no effort to do that.
You see, Marie, if people like you were on the Mass GOP committee, if people like you were running the Mass GOP, we would have an effective party that would challenge the Democrats and really give them a run for their money. See, that's why they like Amy Carnevale, because she's controlled opposition all the way. You're 1,000% correct, Marie. Marie, elections are won on the ground. You don't have a good grassroots game. You don't have a good ground game. You can't win. You're not a serious political force. Final word to you, Marie.
Well, I want to repeat the lovely clip from Elon. If you're not registered to vote, register to vote. Make sure you vote and join your Republican town committee on the local level and make a difference.
Amen. That's the only way. We've got to take the Republican Party back here in Massachusetts. You want an effective party? You want to stop one-party rule? That's the only way we're going to do it. Marie, thank you so much for that call, and keep up the good fight. Greg in Sharon, thanks for holding, Greg, and welcome.
Thanks. Good morning. That last call, that's exactly why I'm no longer a registered Republican in this state. The coordination's an absolute joke, but that's not exactly why I called. You asked, the voters, obviously it's important, right? You asked the voters or your callers, your listeners, to get 10 people to vote for Trump. You have to drag them out of their home, bring them to the polls. Why is that so hard to do? For all of the people listening right now, what are we doing to stem this tide of this progressive, just communist rule? I mean, this has gone on for so long. Now it's beyond an uphill battle, Jeff. I mean, you are basically pleading with your listeners, and I can hear it. It's a passionate plea. You shouldn't even have to be doing that. We should be out every day getting the next generation to understand they can't afford housing, this and that, just driving these talking points home. And, we might actually get some voters.
Alex, can you do me a favor? Oh, sorry, forgive me, Greg, my bad. Alex will be the next caller. Greg, please, hang on, Greg. I want to come back to you. You are making such an important point. Greg, I'm up against a hard break. Don't touch that dial. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to Craig in Sharon. Just before I do, it is now breaking. My news feed is blowing up. Hurricane Milton has now rapidly intensified into a Category 4 storm, which apparently now threatens to bring an additional storm surge, flooding, high possibility of flooding to Florida by the middle of the week, just in a couple days. And obviously it's a big story because it's a Category 4, but also in the wake of FEMA's announcement that they have burned through all the money. So the people of Florida, you're going to be on your own. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, ay, ay. This is going to get even worse for Kamala, Biden, and FEMA. Honestly, we need another hurricane right now like we needed a hole in the head. All right, let's go right back to Craig in Sharon. He was making some excellent points. Please, Greg, pick up where you left off.
Okay. I was mentioning bringing up the next generation of Republican voters because they're out there. We just need to find them. Now, I'm a big proponent of using whatever avenue we have to vote. If that means mail-in ballots, we need to have a groundswell of support, A, so we know what to do, B, so that we're following the laws, and C, so we can actually compete with the Democrats, in this fight. If they have the tools available to one party, they clearly have the tools available to us. The last caller just mentioned, that there's some polling stations where they're not, equitably putting Democrats and Republicans, poll watchers, that's an issue, obviously. But, I'm all for showing up to vote, okay, in person, but we have the opportunity. The mail-in ballot would actually be able to get 20 people for us to go out and vote for Trump, because all you really need to do is go and vote early, and then the clerk simply takes that mail-in ballot, you sign it, and she submits it to, I guess, the state. And you can vote early. Again, I know, I like voting in November too, but this is a totally different game now, and we got to use whatever tools available, in my opinion. And again, the state Republicans just did a horrible job at messaging this. There's, unfortunately, there's no coordination. And, my last point, Jeff, I really don't want to see election night Fox News calling Arizona again. Like they did. I don't know if you remember that or the listeners remember that. That was the biggest slap in the face I think any of us would ever expect that night. It wasn't even close to being called yet, and yet you have Fox News, which we thought was sort of, Republican slant, calling that state for, I think it was Joe Biden, way early. Even Fox is affecting the outcome of election.
No question, Greg. No question. Look, as I love to say, you're not 100% correct. You're 1,000% correct. I have essentially, with a few rare exceptions, I have boycotted Fox News. I've never looked back. That was direct election interference. They had no business calling Arizona that early. And they did it to depress and demoralize the Trump vote in Arizona. That was on purpose. And then it all came out. They had Paul Ryan now, who's essentially running the board, and Murdoch's son, who's a big liberal, big Biden supporter at the time. Now he's a big Kamala supporter. Clearly, he's put rhinos all over Fox. There's some exceptions still, Laura Ingraham and Jesse Waters and Sean Hannity, but now you can count them on one hand. And so, to me, there's no question. We're going to have to look at Fox again this election on election night and see if they try it again. But that's when I turn my back on Fox, and I've never, ever looked back. I mean, Newsmax is much better. One America News is much better. There's a lot of other places to go to get your information. But Fox, from that night, Fox is dead to me. Greg, thank you very, very much for that call. Look, I'm going to get into this, I promise, because I don't want to rush it. If it was just lack of coordination, which is very bad, between the mass GOP and the grassroots that you need, okay, at the local level, that's one thing. But I'm telling you, I'm getting emails from people who know Massachusetts politics, and they're texting the Kuhner man. And they're saying, forget lack of coordination, Jeff. What you're seeing is outright sabotage, in which you have Republican officials, senior Republican officials, who behind the scenes are actively working with Democrats to sabotage MAGA candidates, conservatives, anybody who threatens the swamp here in Massachusetts. So you've got traitors. It's not just that they're lazy, dumb, and incompetent. You have active traitors. And let me tell you who's the number one Republican traitor. Amy Carnevale. She's got to go, or else Massachusetts Republicans will never win. Bye-bye.